I don't want to sugarcoat this or talk about it because facts matter. And the fact is, I hate saying this, President Trump lies. He lies about little things like how big the crowd was for his inauguration or how many times he has been on the cover of Time magazine. He lies about big things like calling the Russia investigation a total fabrication. It's not. Or about who benefits from his tax plan. And every time we talk about this, the president's supporters insist that President Obama lied too. Well, here are the facts. The New York Times compared President Trump's false statements to President Obama's. They used a conservative standard, a demonstrably false claim, not a fudge, not a misstatement. And they applied the same standard to both presidents. They found that in the first 10 months of his administration, President Trump made 103 statements that were just not true. In his entire 8-year presidency, President Obama made 18. Those are the facts. Here to discuss, CNN contributor Michael D'Antonio, the author of, just happens to be, really, The Truth About Trump. Michael, listen, why does this president lie so much?
Well, I think in some ways it's just salesmanship. You know, he came up as a fella selling hard. First it was real estate, then it was casinos, then it was golf courses and hotels. And you know, there are some old-fashioned salespeople who think that you say whatever it takes to make the sale. And you compare this with most other presidents who have been attorneys, or in Jimmy Carter's case, a nuclear physicist, and they often deal with facts. And there's two ways of looking at the world. And I think President Trump is very committed to closing the deal, and he'll clean up the mess later or have someone else do it. But in the moment, it doesn't matter if he's hewing to the facts. I think he wants to get us to go along with him.
Yeah. Here's an example of one of 18 lies that President Obama told.
The vast majority of the money I got was from small donors all across the country.
So Obama did not have a lot of small donors, but definitely not the majority, or I should say he did have, I want to get that right, I don't want to tell a lie here. He did have a lot of small donors, but definitely not the majority. So I want to play now, this is a lie from President Trump. All right, it's a tweet. Sorry. It says, terrible. Just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism. So that was a huge false claim, false charge. Absolutely no evidence there. I've heard him at campaign stops when he was out campaigning, stumping for Roy Moore, just at the Alabama-Florida border, saying, oh, it turns out I was right about that. No, he wasn't right about that. It was wrong. It's an absolute lie. How significant is the way that this president lies?
Well, you just put your finger on one of the other elements of what he does, and that's where he goes back and insists that the distortion that he offered months before actually is true, even though the world has moved on and has determined that it isn't true. He's not really focused on the reality that we inhabit. He's focused on the thing that he wants to accomplish for himself. So in this case, he's very competitive with Barack Obama. He's very resentful of those who bring up these instances of misleading statements and outright lies. So when he's before a friendly audience and he's sure that none of them are going to fact check him, he'll go back to it. You know, we've seen that in other cases where he regrets apologizing or regrets correcting himself because he feels he's somehow weaker in the eyes of the audience. But and really he's playing to an audience, not so much the electorate, by admitting he made a mistake.
But he often tries to discredit people telling the truth, because we all remember President Obama, if you like your doctor, you can keep it line. But he didn't continue with that false claim. And then President Trump, though, is different. As we've been saying, when he's caught saying something untrue, he doubles down and gets personal. And again, discredits a person telling the lie. Why is that? Telling the truth. Why is that?
Well, he told me, the President Trump told me that he thought Obama had made a mistake by admitting that he was wrong when he said you can keep your doctor. He thought that President Obama should have stuck with his original story because of the appearance of appearing to correct himself, suggesting there's something wrong. And, I think this goes back a long way with him, where he's talked his way out of trouble many, many times. In fact, who else could have gone bankrupt spectacularly once and then gotten people to give him money again and done it again, and then people give him money again, and he goes on for 4 big bankruptcies when anyone else would have been told to go away. But yet he does sell his point of view very effectively. He is charming in a way. As much as you might be exasperated by him, there are lots of people who are entertained by this, lots of people who say,
well, we saw that with
I
the
don't
election,
like to be
Michael.
corrected.
I mean, if you look at New York City, the people in New Yorkers knew. They knew. But there are many people around the country who didn't know and are buying into a lot of the lies that this person told. I mean, he was elected president of the United States because of what you said.
Well, we went through this during the election. We were told to not take him seriously, but then we were told that we should consider him a serious candidate.
Yeah.
Right, seriously, but not literally. And, he does get away with things that other people don't get away with. But before I go too far with that, I have to remind myself, and we have to understand his ratings in the polls are very low. The party may be turning away from him and the Steve Bannon way of doing things. So the percentages aren't going to be with him forever. And we may see in 2018 that this catches up with him at last.
Yeah, and when we're talking about how he sort of is hurtful to people, he disagrees with the president, he talks about people he's feuding with. I mean, we saw this with Mika Brzezinski. Has he always been this way?
He has always been this way. And actually, even the broader way that he attacks the press is something that goes back a long way with him. He's talked about how he considers the media dishonest for more than 20 years. And his opponents are always bad people, and those who agree with him are always the good guys. And this is a way, I think, of establishing the rules of the game. And here again is a key to understanding how the president views the world. His game is succeeding in promoting himself in his own interests. And he defines that by winning the argument in this moment, not tomorrow and not for history's sake, but in this moment. And for him, it means deny any responsibility, then turn and attack your opponent. And so if it's the fact checkers, and those are mostly found in the press, he'll attack the press. If it's his opponents, he'll attack them. Either way, he's right, we're wrong, and really it's because he says so.